It's been an eye-opening week at the Dauphine Libere. Tour de France contenders Cadel Evans and Alejandro Valverde have traded blows in a battle for supremacy. The Spaniard has a slight upper hand with a stellar performance in the time trial and unmatchable accelerations in the mountains. American Levi Leipheimer has fought hard, but trails the two with a stage to go. 3 climbs remain today as Cyclism Sundays continues with stage 7 of the Dauphine Libere next on Versus. Yes, and we have a great programme for you today. Welcome to Cyclism Sundays, brought to you by Hampton Hotels. I'm Phil Liggett. Alongside me is Paul Sherwin. We'll begin with the Dauphine Libere as it races to its conclusion over the Alps, finishing in Grenoble. Then we'll move to the second day of racing in the Tour de Suisse. That will finish on top of a mountain. So the stars have got to come out to play today. But first of all, the race of over 1,000 kilometres, the Dauphine Libere. Just how has it gone since we left Avignon last Sunday? Let's pick up the action now as we pick up on Monday's stage. A stage probably for the sprinters, but had a slightly uphill finish. Paul, it was another good day of racing, what turned out to be a terrific week of racing.
Well, it certainly did. We expected this to be a curtain raiser for the Tour de France. There was a 3-man breakaway early on. Sébastien Joly, Cooks and Libere getting themselves off the front. But at the front end of the main field, it was Crédit Agricole doing most of the chasing ahead of Team Astana, and that obviously to try and get the win for Thor Hushovd.
Well, Levi Leipheimer there was the man in yellow after that stunning prologue time trial around the Bataillon in Avignon. The 3 riders, Joly, Cooks and Libere, as always, get wiped out before they approach the final climb. And because it was slightly uphill, this was when, remember Courchevel, when this man beat Lance Armstrong? Valverde uses his massive strength to take out a big sprinter there, Thor Hushovd, to move closer to the maillot jaune. But Hushovd in second place, he would take on the yellow jersey. He loves this race. He's never had yellow before, so he's pretty happy with that.
Well, I think he was a little bit surprised by getting beaten by Alejandro Valverde. The next stage, a longer stage, 114 miles, all the way into the heart of the Alps. Again, a 3-man breakaway, getting pulled in together right down towards the finishing line. But on the run in towards the finish, Crédit Agricole had complete control with Thor Hushovd in second place. Except
they didn't, because as they approached the finish, it was an attack by Gerolsteiner's Sebastian Lang. And who's that in his slipstream? George Hincapie, searching for the form after his little break between the classics. And Hincapie continues to fly the incredible season of Team High Road. He gets them another win, and this was George's first win since the Tour of California back in February.
But the important thing with Hincapie's win, just ahead of the younger Chavanel, Sebastian there, didn't have any effect on the overall classification. Still Hushovd in the lead going into the individual time trial over 31 kilometres or 19 miles.
Well, Hushovd expected to lose his yellow jersey in the mountains still to come. Well, he was about to lose it in the time trial as the top riders and stars of the time trial getting away under rather damp conditions here. Valverde, wearing the green jersey, is the points leader and very pleased with his form so far. While the last man to go out the start house, the non-time trial specialist, Thor Hushovd. Then they started to come home. Cadel Evans, who once won the Tour of Romandy by winning the last day time trial, delivers the blow which sets the marker for the men behind to follow.
Well, Cadel Evans looking to home his performance leading up to the Tour de France, was probably a little bit surprised by the performance of Levi Leipheimer coming out of the 3-week Giro d'Italia, because he shaved 1.5 seconds off the time of Cadel Evans to set the new best time.
And that's a big beating of Cadel Evans, who seemed to be not time trialing quite as well as he used to. But Valverde, boy, his form continues. He hits the line with the best time of the day. A yellow jersey awaited him. Thor Hushovd, we're showing the pictures just so you remember him in yellow, because he was outside the top 90 riders to finish by the time he hit the line.
Well, for him, pretty much the Dauphiné Libéré probably over, because there's not very much flat left in the Dauphiné Libéré. But Alejandro Valverde winning the time trial like he did earlier on in the year in the Tour of the Basque Country, and getting himself the overall lead and setting himself a solid advantage over Cadel Evans and Levi Leipheimer.
So onward to stage 4. In the backdrop there, Lac Le Mans in Geneva, but we were finishing en masse on over the top of the giant Col de Soleil. The early attackers were quality here, Thomas Voigtler and Pierre Rolland. They were the riders who had got clear. And now we're seeing Kees de Barnpool really looking after their team leader in yellow, Valverde.
Valverde looking very confident, but I tell you what, so was Pierre Rolland, because he left Thomas Voigtler behind on the climb. The inimitable style of Thomas Voigtler left in second place on the road. This young man here, Pierre Rolland, is turning out to be quite a revelation in this early part of the season. In fact, he won a race in Gabon last year, Africa.
But he was picked up at the top of the Col de Salé by Cyril Dessel. Remember him a couple of years ago? He was a big surprise in the Tour de France when he grabbed the yellow jersey for a day. Well, he seems to be refining that form as he came the winner to the line. Pierre Rolland did hang on for second place and was a very disappointing young man, but has a great future ahead of him. Amel Moinard was in third place, but overall, funnily enough, there was no change. Onward to stage 5 now, and a ride of 78 miles, but over the giant Col de Jouplan.
The Jouplan coming right at the very end. There was a breakaway and once again got clear. Trofimov, Cuesta, Efemkin and Akobo. And I tell you what, nobody was expecting this move to come. But in the main contenders group behind, everybody was trying to put time between themselves, of course, and Alejandro Valverde. But on the Jouplan field, a very select group.
It was a great move, this, as they got clear of the field. The big podium contenders were hugging each other as they climbed, but Levi Leipheimer suddenly cracked. He would lose a lot of time before the finish, although he would hang on to his third place overall. But now the race is becoming a two-man battle. Meanwhile, at the front, though, Juan Jose Cobo was topping the Jouplan by himself.
With about 43 seconds ahead of this elite group, number 71 at the back, Robert Gesink wanted to make his mark here, but on the little climb after the summit of the Col de Jouplan, a name that we've not mentioned very much, Trofimov, goes clear, leaving Juan Jose Cobo behind, facing up now to the death-defying descent down into Morzine.
Another great moment for the French team, and it was a Russian rider flying the French flag. He in fact speaks only his native language of Russian. He can't speak to the French other than sign language. And in fact, at the finish, they had to ring up somebody who spoke Russian and French, who wasn't even on the race. But nonetheless, for Bouygues Telecom, a victory for Yuri Trofimov. It was a great victory too, but it wasn't going to affect the overall. Cadel Evans taking on Valverde, but Valverde locked onto his wheel. No time gains for Cadel, just the pleasure of having beaten him in the sprint.
But Levi Leipheimer coming home, but check out the man in second position there. Has had a terrible season trying to get over illness. Michael Rogers announcing he's back.
I reckon you're right. Trofimov, though, gets the victory. Cadel Evans at 18 seconds, given the same time as Alejandro Valverde. And so, while Bouygues Telecom will claim a French victory there, we'll move on now to yesterday as we now race up that mountain, La Toussuire, the sad moment there where Floyd Landis once won and was then disqualified from the Tour de France. Anyway, it was to be a happier day for another Dane because Michael Rasmussen once won up there too, and on the attack was Chris Anker Sorensen. The other boys were all together here as they started the climb. But then, and people always keep telling us, Cadel Evans never attacks. Well, he just did.
Well, at 5 kilometers to go, he wanted to put time between himself and Alejandro Valverde. And having lost a bit of time on the previous day, Levi Leipheimer wanted to ride himself back into the overall classification and took off in pursuit. He very rapidly joined Cadel Evans.
Well, I think it's a great shame that Leipheimer won't get a shot at the Tour de France with his Astana team because his form is definitely coming. At the kilometre to go, though, it was still Sorensen who was holding a 1 minute advantage. They weren't going to catch him, but now it was Levi who was now trying to take on Cadel Evans, and up from the back comes the Maillot Jaune of Valverde. At the top of the mountain, and he'd gone fishing, he caught the big one. That was Sorensen getting the win. Well, and just hanging on was Leipheimer for the next position.
But I think a little bit further back, defending solidly on the day, of course, was Alejandro Valverde, and riding better and better in the mountains there. You can see Mick Rogers coming home as well in that group. I think we're announcing ourselves, Phil, to a very interesting Tour de France. Now, this, I have to say, was a great victory salute, but he nearly decked it just about 5 meters after the line.
He certainly did. He's only a young boy, second-year pro with CSE. Watch out for him. Overall, though, Alejandro Valverde, 39 seconds. He just nipped out another couple of seconds on Cadel Evans at the end. Leipheimer is in a good third place. Dessel drops down from 4th to 6th overall. The top 10, and there is Michael Rogers in there. But what about Carlos Sastre? Is he happy sitting 12 minutes back when he's supposed to be one of the favourites for the upcoming Tour de France? So the whole week of racing really has been a battle between 3 men, and those 3 men should climb on the podium today. But the question is, in which order, Paul? Because we're going through the Alps again as we head down towards Grenoble. Everybody knows Grenoble is on the flat.
Yes, it might be on the flat, but it's a hilly road to get there, 128 kilometers. But look at the last half of the race. The Col de Granier at 1,100 meters, the Col de Coucheron 1,100 meters, and finally a second category climb to finish, the Col de Port, and a dramatic downhill finish into Grenoble. I think we have an attacking day.
Well, we're looking down here in the village of Saint-Pierre, and just looking down there, the peloton is now about 4 minutes behind an original breakaway group of 5. And there are chasers in between, but this is going the way of Caisse d'Epargne at the moment. They seem to have good control of the peloton.
Well, they have, and let's not forget over the years that Caisse d'Epargne has been the team of great riders like Pedro Delgado, Miguel Indurain. They know how to control a bike race, Phil, when they're in a leading position.
Well, the attackers, Lampre's Daniela Righi, Crédit Agricole, Dmitry Fofanov, Quick-Step's Jürgen van der Walle, AG2R's Christophe Riblon, and Boy Telecom, the man that won earlier in the week, Yuri Trofimov, when he came good on the descent down into Morzine. He's up there in that move. And it's going to be a tough ask to catch them, I think, Paul. We're on the, we've just gone over the top of the Col de Coucheron. We're now starting the last climb of the day, which is the Col de Port before the long descent. All of the riders on the overall podium are still in that peloton, which is getting smaller, I must say.
It certainly is. The Jürgen van der Walle at the back here for Team Quick-Step. I think he's just trying to hang on in there, and he's dreaming about trying to get himself a stage victory here this afternoon. But this young rider, Trofimov, at 24 years of age, I think is the major revelation. The big question is now that whether or not Boyd Telecom are going to take him forward to the Tour de France, which it's a very big ask in one of your early years as a professional bike rider.
It is, but you know, you take a man on form, and he's found his form bang on cue. Here's Caisse d'Epargne here, one of the workhorses being Oscar Pereiro, doing a lot of work here for Valverde. Team High Road want a little bit of help at the back just now. And
caught a glimpse at the front, though, Phil, of the green jersey on the shoulders of Levi Leipheimer, who there you can see him in around about 9th position there, behind that great armada of red and black, and that is the Caisse d'Epargne squad of Alejandro Valverde in the yellow jersey in the middle there in 5th position.
Well, it looks as though the Armada is escorting the winner of the Dauphiné Libere, but there's still a little way to go, and there's another climb to come, so we'll take a break. Welcome back to the Dauphiné Libere. A chance now to get a good look at Alejandro Valverde here. He started strong in the prologue time trial in Avignon a week ago. He has excelled his expectations, and now he's about 25 kilometers away from winning the Dauphiné. If he does, Paul, he'll be the first Spanish rider since Inigo Landaluz a couple of years ago. Well,
I think what's more important, Phil, is the fact that he's announcing his condition leading up to the Tour de France. This is the final climb of the day, and I tell you what, that group of 4 riders is actually eating into the advantage of the 5 leaders. They were 2.5 minutes behind. I reckon now they're not much more than 30 seconds, but what's also happening is the main field are accelerating and reducing what their deficit was a few moments ago of 5 minutes to around about 3.5, and that could change very quickly if the big names like Cadel Evans and Levi Leipheimer have a go at the yellow jersey.
I just have a feel there's an awful lot of silence lotto riders up behind those Caisse d'Epargne riders, and I reckon that Cadel has told them his one last hope is to attack on this final climb, so they might well launch him. Well, this is the leading group here now. They've been under pressure. There was an attack a few moments ago by Riblon, but he's been brought back into the fold, the AG2R rider. They'll be very wary now of Yuri Trofimov. He's the Boyd Telecom rider just popping into our picture on the right, because if he's going to go, he might try and go on the descent again, as he did into Morzine, where he won the stage.
Well, Trofimov's the rider at the back there in the light blue shorts from Boyd Telecom. He won the Étoile de Bessèges in the early part of this year, but at 24 years of age, he's got a massive future in front of him, I would have to say. And he's not really a major road rider, Phil, because his background, if talking about him, he's gone.
Well, there we are. He's made his move, and well, are they up for it? Because they would have known he was going to do this and trying to go alone, and there's just one reaction here from Van der Walle of the Quick-Step team. Of course, he's now on the team of the disgraced Tom Bonen. If you're catching up with the news in the week, an out-of-competition test on Tom Bonen, our favourite for the green jersey in the Tour de France, and he was found to be positive for cocaine. Now, that's a social drug as far as the world of sport is concerned, not a sporting abuse, and it was out of competition, so he wasn't near a bike race. So the world body and the Belgian Cycling Federation are not interested in any sanctions. But the Tour de France have wasted no time in stopping him taking part in the Tour de France. Tom and the Tour de Suisse also wouldn't accept his entry. So Tom is in disgrace, and we'll have to see how he gets around this one mentally.
Well, in fact, it was the Tour de Suisse who made the decision very, very quickly to say they did not want Tom Boonen gracing the roads of Switzerland here this year. And in fact, a little bit after that, the Tour de France came up with the same decision. But I have a feeling there will be a meeting between Team Quick-Step and, of course, the organisers of the Tour de France in the upcoming future. I have to say I'm a little bit sad because I've always been a great supporter of Tom Boonen, but, you know, it's one of those things where a lot of young athletes, especially football players, normally soccer players, they've just got so much money, and I think they get dragged into these things.
Well, the thing is, Paul, the Tour de France has made it quite clear they are not with the world body, the UCI, anymore. They are batting on their own. They make their own rules. The French Cycling Federation, for accepting it as a national race rather than an international race on the calendar, they've been suspended. They've lost now the chance to promote 2 world championships because of that in the future. And the Tour de France are taking their own decisions. They're naming their own race referees. They are deciding, even when it's a social drug, that they're not having Tom Boonen near their race, and that it's created no sporting problem. And perhaps there is a case that Tom Boonen should ride that event, but he'll take his punishment. He'll step to one side.
Well,
And
I'm not sure that's completely decided just yet. You know, I know the organisers of the Tour de France will be presented with a case by Team Quick-Step to try and give him permission. Now, Eddie Merckx is a great supporter of Tom Boonen and says, look, this kid has made a mistake in his life. Surely you're allowed one mistake. It was definitely not for performance enhancement. It was just a crazy mistake by a young kid with too much money.
Indeed, but I'll tell you what, the Tour de France will not back down. They never do. And the fight has only just begun between the world body and the organisers of the Tour de France. Well, here we are, back with the action in the Dauphiné, and it's been a super race. I have to say this year, most of the bike races have been real full of action bike races. AG2R trying to slow it down a little bit at the front. Gerolsteiner here, this is Sebastian Lang, who almost won the stage when George Hincapie stole it the other day. He's now at the wrong end of the field. He's a sprinter, of course. The pressure is on now. The infight has begun at the front. Now, can Cadel Evans raise the pace just a little bit and maybe get away from the shadow of Valverde?
Well, you can see just how difficult the race is beginning to get here as we start to make our way slowly and firmly up this climb. And AG2R have come to the front because they're quite interested in trying to see if they can set something up for their man Cyril Dessel, who I think is back on form this year. You know, he had a couple of years with a little bit of an illness. He had something that he was trying to find out what it was all about. This year he's come back good and strong, and he's had 3 wins this season.
He's very confident. He came up to 4th overall with his stage when he dropped a little bit yesterday down to 6th overall, but he's not far off a podium place. And trouble here at the front as the breakaway now begins to split, and Trofimov, we saw him go, is still hanging on to a slender lead. It's heading for home. We'll take a break. Yes, and the question is, will this rider make the Bouygues Telecom team for the Tour de France? Because he's certainly doing enough. He might be a bit young just yet, though, but he's certainly proving a point today. He's still clear of the group behind.
He's still clear of the group behind, but they're not too far behind him, and the main field is starting to accelerate as if they're trying to set something up for the big guns to have a big attack. One final attack at Alejandro Valverde. There you can see the leader of the King of the Mountains, Pierre Rolland. He got that on the big Alpine stage a couple of days ago, and I think he certainly wants to keep that all the way down to the finish. The main field here, though, Phil, is certainly reducing very dramatically in numbers. There's Cadel Evans sitting in around about 10th or 11th position. He must be wondering whether or not he can use the incline here to try and make an advantage over Valverde and then take advantage of what is a fairly tricky descent.
Well, I have to say that that chase group is now just Charlie Wegelius, Pierre Rolland and Sandy Cassar. They've dropped Carrera on the climb, but they're climbing this final climb of the race, the Col de Porte, at a very high tempo, and that might not be good for Cadel Evans. AG2R really are coming to the front and working very hard. I'm not sure that's a great idea. They should have left all the heavy work to the Case de Palm boys, I think.
Well, Case de Palm are not really too concerned at all about any of the riders in front, Phil, because nobody in the front of this race is at all a danger at all to Alejandro Valverde. His danger lies within the group that he's with. There's Robert Gesink. I did see Levi Leipheimer a little while back, but he seems to have slipped back a fraction. There on the right-hand side, you can see in the red and black jersey is Cadel Evans, fine-tuning himself for the upcoming Tour de France.
Number 16 there, Sergio Paolino. I know that Johan Brunel thinks a lot of that rider on Team Astana, but he hasn't really done very much at all since he got the silver medal, which was a big surprise in the Olympic Games in Athens 4 years ago. The pace being set at the front by Alexander Efimkin for AG2R. There he is. Good tempo riding.
Nice to see. I just caught a glimpse of a high road rider at the back there, and that was Craig Lewis, who I think is really making quite a name for himself in the Dauphine Libere here, and of course with Team High Road as well.
Good development ride for Craig, because he started off in that prologue time trial with a terrific ride. I think he finished 10th, if memory serves me right, last week in Avignon. And 10th or 11th, I think he was 11th. Yeah, and Yuri Trofimov now at the front here. He's 16th overall after his great ride the other day. But the gap isn't going to worry the yellow jersey of Valverde. It's too much time to make up now. They're limiting the escape. This man has only one ambition today, stage win number 2.
Yes, he's only leading that chase group by 11 seconds, and the main field, who were at 5.5 minutes at one stage, are now down to 3 minutes and 40 seconds. This man we're looking at here, Phil, comes from a very big background in mountain biking. In fact, he got himself bronze medals in the Junior World Championships for mountain bike and in the Under-23 European Championships as well. It's only in recent years that he's actually switched across to the road, like a lot of mountain bikers have done of late, including one Cadell Evans.
Absolutely, and the British flag on the right. Well, they haven't got to wait long before they see the British rider, Charlie Wegelius, coming up in that chase group of 3 with another revelation of the race, Pierre Roland and Sandy Cassar. Cassar was the man that won the stage despite being knocked off by a dog, remember last year in the Tour de France. Well, the red team car, same make by the way, and as the Tour de France, but this is not organised by the Tour de France. This is a World Cup event, and I struggle to remember who is the leader of the World Cup, but I'm sure you can tell me, Paul.
I think it's Damiano Cunego.
Oh, well done. And he's riding in the Tour of Switzerland. We'll see how he's getting on in a moment. After we complete our coverage here, we'll be going across to Switzerland, where Damiano is riding. All right, well, we've got this man still clear of the field. The boys behind are struggling to limit his escape. He needs a little bit of time at the top before he plunges down to the finish in Grenoble. And when we come back to, we'll learn a little bit more about a man who's not in the race, but hopes to be in the Olympic Games. And that's Michael Friedman. We'll see you in a moment.
Plan B, what's plan B? You know, you don't know plan B, because all you're thinking about is racing your bike and going for the Olympics.
Welcome back to the Dauphine Libere. Well, before we crack the final climb of this year's race, let's talk a little bit about a great bike rider who hopes to go to the Olympic Games on the track. And that's Michael Friedman of Slipstream Chipotle. Michael has a real story to tell, so here he is now as part of our Hampton Hotels Road to Beijing profile.
Mike Friedman, Team Slipstream Sports, powered by Chipotle. I was hired as a track athlete on the velodrome and thrown onto the road. Having ridden about 10,000 miles more than I ever did before, I formed saddle sore. I never would have fathomed that having surgery on a saddle sore would have led to a pulmonary embolism. Forming a blood clot was a surprise. You go from training, preparing for the next World Cup in the next, 2007 season to sitting in a hospital bed when some doctor was telling you blood clots. First thing they asked me is, if I was on EPO. They asked me what drugs I took as an athlete, as a cyclist. I just said, listen, just because I'm a cyclist doesn't mean I'm, riddled or take drugs, to succeed, The doctors were saying that I wasn't going to be able to race, that was going to be it. And that's hard to deal with. Plan B, what's plan B? You don't know plan B, because all you're thinking about is racing your bike and going for the Olympics. I began slowly regenerating my training regime. I could barely walk when I first got back out of the hospital. And so it's been a slow process coming back. Initially, I thought my Olympic goal for the 2008 season was going to be just to survive. But now, only in the last 3 World Cups has that goal changed. I didn't think it was a reality that I could actually come back within 1 year and compete at the same level and win or score a medal at the level that we were racing at these World Cups. And now I thoroughly believe, without a doubt in my mind, that it's possible to medal, if not win, at the Olympic Games.
Well, he's not yet selected for the Olympic Games, Paul, but I think he'll get there because he's proved his worth on the track, and he did win the scratch race in Beijing.
Well, he did. I think he will get selection, as you say. At the moment, the only men who've been selected for the road on automatic selection, of course, Levi Leipheimer and George Hincapie. I think they're good choices.
Well, they're obvious choices, but as with all nations, they're yet to name their riders for the upcoming Olympic Games, which are held in the month of August. Now back to the action. And as we get back to the action, there is the line, the last mountaintop climb over the Col de Port of this year's Dauphine Libere race. Now he's made his move, Paul, Yuri Trofimov. He's done it all right so far. Now, can he dive to the bottom like he did into Morzine?
Well, I don't think so. It's a completely different kind of descent here down into the finish in Grenoble. And the two riders chasing him are going to cross the top of the climb there with just on a 20-second deficit. And big Jürgen van der Waller, I think, will take advantage of what is a very fast descent.
Just behind him, Dmitry Fofanov, Kazakhstan rider on Crédit Agricole. Go back up to the leader now, slips up those gears and into the biggest one he's got on the bike. A little bit off the pace there is Christophe Riblon, but he'll go over in 4th place. And the other man will be Daniela Righi from Lamprey, but he looks as though he's really taken a bit of a hit on that climb. And he may not be too far ahead now of Pierre Roland, who's still scoring in the mountains. There he is. In fact, he's been joined there by a quick-step rider. That must be Righi, surely.
Well, these riders are losing themselves around about the 1 minute mark, and it's a very fast descent down into Grenoble, so I don't see the main field actually making a comeback here this afternoon. Of course, Alejandro Valverde is not really too concerned about anybody here. You know, his advantage over the rider in 10th position is almost 10 minutes.
But you have to love this part of the world. These are the lower Alps, if you like, as we now drop down into the lovely city of Grenoble, which is tucked between the shadow of the Alps. There goes Pierre Roland at 1:26, Sandy Cassar behind him, then Charlie Wegelius, and that will confirm Pierre Roland as the winner of the King of the Mountains. So he's had a good week. He had a 2nd place, and now he's got the King of the Mountains.
Well, we're looking at the speed here in the front end of the main field, and I'm not sure whether anybody's got the legs here this afternoon to make the difference, and that's probably why we haven't seen any real serious attacks coming from Levi Leipheimer there on the left-hand side. He's just pulling his arm warmers up to keep himself warm against this rather chilly climate over the summit of the climb. And, of course, I think Cadel Evans realizing maybe this climb not quite steep enough to outfox a man like Alejandro Valverde, who, let's not forget, earlier this year was the winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège.
Super tempo riding and quite a helpful tailwind up the climb here. Now looks like Michael Rogers. And took near the back of the race. He's really come to form, and Michael is going to be so pleased here. He's been very depressed all year. He's had this problem. The doctors thought it was a heart problem. They said he should stop cycling. He's come through that. He's refound himself. He's trained hard. And now I think he's made his place in the Tour de France team this week.
There's Mick Rogers there on the left-hand side. I also saw George Hincapie in this group. So Hincapie riding well through the Alps, indicating that he's ready for the little rendezvous that he's got in the month of July, the Tour de France.
Peloton thinned out on the climb, but there's an awful lot of riders here. Very fast tempo. Cadel had no opportunity to attack. On his shoulder there is Robert Gessing, also unable to attack. Vladimir Epinkin tapping out the rhythm. Nobody getting around him. Goodness knows why he's doing all this work. But I know the Case de Palm boys are very happy he is. And there comes Valverde, just to show his yellow jersey at the front. They're all looking to grab the newspapers now, not to read tomorrow's headlines, by the way, but to put on their jerseys for the chilly descent back down off the mountaintops.
Well, it's one of the cheapest insulators you can get. Newspapers made from trees, from wood, and they put those up in the front there, and that stops the cold wind going through onto their chests. So all riders at this time of the year feel very concerned about the possibility of getting a chest infection with the chill factor of going down hills at up to 50 miles an hour.
Yes, absolute nightmare. You can train as hard as you like for a major event, but if you catch cold, you've wasted all of those months. So there's the top of the Col de Port for what is left of the peloton here, and they've gone over with all of the leaders intact. I don't think there's any opportunity left now for Cadel Evans, and certainly not Levi Leipheimer. He's a little bit too far behind to rest this race away from Alejandro Valverde. So they're starting the drive off the mountain. Our motorcycle here will have to show a new skill and get out of the way, because these boys will go down at between 50 and 55 miles an hour. Meanwhile, at the front and still clear and riding terrifically strongly is Yuri Trofimov here, looking for the second stage win.
Well, watch out, there's a little nasty twist here. The road has been reduced in size here because of roadworks, and this man is going down here as if there's absolutely no fear going through his body. This is absolutely crazy descending style. He's through that little bit of road repair there, nice and safe. He actually looks like a downhill skier here, Phil. You see how he's taking a good line across the corners. He's cutting the corners straight across the apex, trying to keep his speed up to 55 miles an hour. Looks over his shoulder for a little bit of reassurance, but tell you one thing, the two chasers are only at 15 seconds.
Well, we'll see. Don't forget, this man had a silver medal as a junior in the World Mountain Bike Championship, so that little bit of rough road would make him feel right at home. Our cameraman there almost lost control, though he's bobbing up and down. Here's the force still being driven on. AG2R wants more action. Case de Barn saying, why should we bother? And they really want this stage win.
They certainly do. You can see, I think, that's what the work is being done on the front for. But they may well have left it just a little bit too late, because, you know, 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and with an almost downhill run into the finish line, is almost impossible to pull back for the main field.
Well, the yellow jersey wisely keeping out of trouble here now, so we can see the road on the way down through the pine trees. Drop down to the valley below, and that is Alejandro Valverde. He was very happy with his prologue result, a podium place in the prologue, and then he thought that would do nicely. Then he goes and wins the first stage against all the sprinters, and he thought, boy, my form is good. And now here he is racing towards the line as a possible winner today of the Dauphine. We'll take a break. Rejoin us. Welcome back, and this is the peloton going through the same stretch of roadworks here, but they look as though they're all safe. And at the front, it is Alejandro Valverde keeping his nose clean, out of trouble now as he runs downhill to Grenoble, and his first ever victory in the Dauphine Libere. The big question mark remaining, though, will Trofimov hold them off?
Well, I have a feeling that he won't, because there's two very solid chasers just behind him, and I would give the advantage to Jurgen van der Walle. But while he's still leading, he has got a chance of surviving to the finish. There's big George Hincapie moving up into third position, and that's nice to see leading up to the Tour de France. You know, when George starts the Tour de France in July this year, it will be his 13th participation, and that will put him up amongst some of the all-time great participants.
It certainly will. The best is Joop Zoetemelk. He did it 16 times and didn't abandon one of the races. Terrific record. But George is getting up there very rapidly. He'll be at the history books, no doubt, of the Tour de France this year. The peloton still being driven on for reasons unknown by AG2R. They keep on shouting at Case de Barn to give him a hand, but for the life of me, I can't understand why. They haven't really got anybody capable of winning the stage, and they're too far behind to even contemplate winning the stage. Paul Sherwin, a master tactician, can't answer the question either.
Well, initially I thought it was to try and set something up for Cyril Dissel to move up in the overall classification, but you're right. Right now I've kind of lost any understanding at all as to why they're keeping the pressure on. And the man on the left-hand side of the road there that you saw quite briefly, by the way, was a spectator. Don't worry.
Yes, well, he got out of the way, and well, he should too. Fofanov, Van der Walle, Trofimov. These are the riders. We've got three leaders. We didn't see them catch.
They're back together again. I didn't feel that Trofimov was going to succeed on the running down towards the finish, and the fact that we missed the junction there was not ourselves. It was our good friends from the French television network on the other side of the Atlantic.
They forgot to press the right button when the bridge came, but there's three leaders now. They've reached the leader, and that's trouble. Trofimov will have a problem sprinting with Fofanov.
And they'll all have a problem sprinting with Jurgen van der Walle.
Yes, because he's a good finisher as well for Quick Step. Well, we'll see. But they're the three leaders, and there's still the chase behind of Vergelius, Roland and Cassar. And the other members of the breakaway are still up there somewhere, but obviously our cameras can't be everywhere. And the peloton making a pretty regular descent down towards the finishing line here. Case de Barn and AG2R with one rider controlling the front of the bunch. Just sat near the back of it there. I saw Juan Antonio Fletcher. And these are the three leaders now. And again, two French teams and a Belgian team in the thick of the action as they head down towards the finish. I must say it's been a good week for Crédit Agricole, one way and another, Paul, with Thor Hushoft and Pierre Roland.
They were very upset with losing the opening day prologue to Levi Leipheimer, because they felt absolutely certain that if we were on the finish line there, we saw the arrival of Thor Hushoff. We thought, well, nobody's going to get any better. That's Grenoble, and that's where the riders are heading to. And as you can see from the altitude here, it's an awful long way down.
It is. It's not a great city, Grenoble. It's pretty industrialized, but all around it, some parts and most beautiful scenes in the world here, surrounded by the Alps. And we'll be in the region again in July with the Tour de France. We're really looking forward to bringing you full coverage of that race here on Versus. I know many of you always late for work during the month of July because you're watching the action with us as it unfolds live. We're looking now, AG2R, we've got 2 riders up there now. We need to send them a text to ask them why they're bothering.
Well, I really would like to know, because really, if you look down the list of riders on AG2R, they don't have any massive sprinters. Possibly Vladimir Efimkin could be in the group there, and he's a man who could finish it off, but they are still looking for an awful lot of time.
Well, we've now got Euskaltel Euskadi also getting riders. They had the last winner of the Dauphine from Spain in Indigo Landaluz. He's riding here today. He's not going to win the race this year. The question is who will win the stage as well. We'll take a break. We now have 3 riders up front. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Tête de la course, the leaders of the final stage of the Dauphine Libere, and they've only just come together as we saw Dimitri Fofanov of Crédit Agricole in the green, driving at the moment. Jurgen van der Walle of Quickstep, I don't think he's won a race since he was the junior champion of Belgium, Paul. And the other rider, Yuri Trofimov, who is on form and has won a stage this week.
Well, I tell you what, I'll give him a professional victory, if you like. And it was the opening stage of the Tour of Qatar, and he was a member of the Quickstep team that won the team time trial alongside Tom Bowden.
Oh, so he gets a share in that. That's an 8-man share, though, right? Okay, an 8 share, fine, all right. We'll give him that one. Maybe he'll win today, because I'm not so sure they're going to be picked off now. They are around 7 kilometres from the finish. The peloton are 9 kilometres from the line. They are not going to bridge the gap. It was a very, very fast descent down that mountain. It's over now as they turn left here in the outskirts of Grenoble.
Well, they're on the flat part now. They've got about 6 kilometres to go to the finish. Fofanov on the front. Not exactly a prolific winner since he turned professional way back in 1998. He only has 4 wins to his credit. In fact, he hasn't won a race, Phil, since 2002.
Well, that's time to start winning again, but we're getting a whole series of new winners this year in the World Cycling events, which is great to see. And again, the French teams to the fore, 2 of them in this final break. They've had a wonderful Dauphiné Libéré race. Remember, this race is one of the nice races in the world. So many riders say they love riding the Dauphiné. It goes through the most spectacular scenery, and it's been a good course this year. And this is the 60th edition of the event. Last year's winner, Christophe Moreau, not here because the organisers chose to take only Pro Tour teams, and Moreau is on a continental team this year, not a Pro Tour, so he wasn't invited back. No wild cards in the race this year.
How about this for a little bit of chaos? This is what descending is all about. You have to take the risks going around the corners, get as close as you can to the apex of the corner, and as close as you can to the television motorbike to try and take advantage of the slight slipstreaming effect on this descent at speeds approaching 55 to 60 miles an hour on some of these alpine descents.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was John Brew who just gave us the grimmest smile as he went for his breaks from Euskaltel Euskadi. They've again produced a good ride here from Jaime Zubeldia, very underrated rider from Spain. We hardly ever talk about him, yet you check his race record, 4th in the Tour de France. He is a very good bike rider, and he'll be in the Tour de France again for Euskaltel, and could well be heading for a podium place. I just have that feeling it's such an open tour this year, and I think there might be a surprise winner. 5K to go.
Well, there's a man who may well get himself the victory in the Tour de France in July now. Alejandro Valverde in the yellow and blue jersey of the Dauphiné Libéré. Phil, I'd have to say, with a win in the Dauphiné, he's got to feel very confident going forward to the Tour. But the Tour for him, the end of the 3-week Tour, I think is still a little bit of a scary proposition.
Absolutely. Well, these boys are about to shut down their descent here as well. And Euskaltel Euskadi have got company now in the form of Valverde, keeping out of trouble here. I think he's on the wheel there of Efimkin, although it looks like they may have had a change of AG2R rider there. And I think the tempo was too quick. Cadel Evans could not make a move on that climb and had no chance to attack. And again, he's going to lose a major Tour by a hatful of seconds, just like he did the Tour de France.
Well, at least he did have an attempt, and he did try to attack on the big alpine stages here. Of course, we saw the big move on the road down in towards Morzine, and of course another move came on the climb to La Touffière. So I think Cadel is just starting to find his form again, and he will make an ascending form once he moves away from the Dauphiné Libéré to get himself ready for the first few days of the Tour de France, which I have to say, Phil, are going to be pretty scary. Without any time bonuses over the opening week of the Tour, the sprinters are going to think they've got this one in the bag.
Well, let's remember, and Cadel could remember this, when Cadel won a build-up race for the Tour de France last year, the man he beat was Alberto Contador.
Cyril Dessel is thinking about trying to move himself up in the overall classification. That move by the Frenchman there, Phil, has actually really put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, that's the tactic. It was to try and get Dessel. He doesn't need more than a few seconds to get himself up towards the podium. I don't think he can catch Levi Leipheimer. But that's his intention now, is to get away. But just to finish the little tale there, when Cadel Evans won, Contador was second, and in the Tour de France it was reversed. Now, this could be the case next July, because Cadel is finishing second to Valverde. Will he win the Tour de France and put Valverde back in second?
Well, it's a tall ask for Cyril Dessel to move up into 5th place. He's looking for 40 seconds over Haimar Zubeldi, and I don't think they're going to let the Frenchman ride off the front end of the main field. These now are the 3 leaders. Fofanoff there in the green jersey of Crédit Agricole, number 43. Hasn't won very many races. The rider in blue, Trofimov, on the front there. He's a rider on the ascendant. And poor old Jürgen van der Werle looking tired, but if he's got a chance of a victory, he'll find something special for it.
So we're heading down the Avenue Verdun. The finish will be on the Avenue Jean Pain, or Jean Pain in English, and there's plenty of pain left yet. Dessel has made his move. The boys have joined up. As they come together, we'll take a break, and we'll be back for the finish. So stay with us. And welcome back as the 1 kilometre kite approaches for the 3 leaders. So the breakaway again this week has survived the peloton, and that's good news. But which one's going to win?
Well, thank you for laying that into my basket. I have to say, I've got absolutely no idea. In a breakaway like this, it is always very difficult to predict, especially at the end of a very difficult week of racing. I think, as you say, Trofimov on the front there in the pale blue has got a very good chance. He's a rider on the ascent, 24 years of age. But if he's not careful and uses too much youthful enthusiasm, as he seems to be doing here, I think he may well throw this race away to the man at the back, Jürgen van der Werle. Van der Werle hasn't done a lot of work over the last 4 or 5 kilometres, but I think he's pretty happy just to be in this breakaway.
He's been very kind to him, Paul. He hasn't done any work over the last few kilometres, but he's sat there. He looks like a pursuiter more than a sprinter. Big, tall rider. He's in a perfect place, and so too is Fofinov now, because Trofimov, it's getting a bit of a tongue twister, this finish, but Trofimov here, I think, has done far too much work since he was caught. He should have eased up and made the others do a little bit more work. We're going to find out. They've obviously nailed him as the man to worry about, and Fofinov, and he's signalled that one too much now. Has Trofimov got anything left here? Van der Werle, I don't think he's got it here, but this could be a Crédit Agricole victory without Torhashov. As Fofinov goes, but through the middle as they hit the line. Well, you know, he has won it, but Van der Werle in the end almost stole that on the line. This is the race for 4th place, and this will be Riblon. No, it's not. It's going to be it'll be, yes, Riblon, who's come across the line there in 4th place. The remainder of the breakaway, the Lampre rider was Daniela Righi.
And Matteo Carrara was the rider in there as well.
Who got back, because he was dropped earlier. Yeah.
He did, but that was a good move by Fofinov here on the left-hand side, and that's his first professional victory since 2002. And as you said a little earlier, Phil, what a great week it's been for Crédit Agricole.
They have won with Torhashov, they've won with Fofinov, and they've got themselves a king of the mountains with Pierre Roland, who's going to come in ahead of the peloton as well. There's the peloton.
That is not much of a peloton. You can see just how hard that final climb was. There's the yellow jersey there quite comfortably, Alejandro Valverde. Nothing really too much for him to worry about here this afternoon, but they actually have ripped the race to pieces over the last 20 kilometres. There's the winner of the day, Fofinov, and I think he'll be very happy with that victory, and he will probably have got himself a position in the Crédit Agricole team for the Tour de France.
Well, here comes the chase. Andy Cassar leading in the king of the mountains and revelation, Pierre Roland, who might already know through his earpiece that his teammate has won the stage. Charlie Wegelius has been at the back all day long, and I don't think he'll take part. Oh, haven't said that. You should never say that as a commentator, Paul. Here comes Charlie, who's not a great sprinter. Sandy Cassar, stage winner in the Tour last year, isn't going to be outdone here. So Cassar gets lost track now, about 7th place, I think.
But that's the king of the mountains there in the white polka dot jersey of the Dauphine Libere. There's the main field, and they will be coming up to the line in about 30 seconds or so. And you can see 1 or 2 riders slipping back there quite rapidly. Is it still Euskaltel-Euskadi on the front end of the main field? I don't think Alejandro Valverde will sprint out here this afternoon, but good to see George Hincapie there, and I'm pretty certain that Craig Lewis is still in this group.
Well, one rider has just slipped away off the front here for Cofidis, and he might just about hold off the field because he's got away. It's Montfort. He's tried to get away a couple of times today without success, so he's now going to win the bunch sprint. He's had a very good tour as well. They're coming at him though, and looking over, always looking over. Yes, thanks boys for all the work you did for me. You've kept me in yellow. And that's a nice gesture as the peloton come in. It's split on the descent, but there's no doubt who has won this, Paul, and has sent out the clearest of messages. Valverde for the Tour de France now.
Absolutely, Alejandro Valverde. I think what was the most impressive to me, Phil, was not the way he rode through the mountains, but the way he won that 31-kilometre time trial, because it was there that he laid the foundations for victory in the Dauphiné, and it's in the time trial that you have to lay your foundations for victory in the Tour. There is Roger Leger on the left-hand side with the King of the Mountains winner here. A major revelation, and I think, man, we will follow that name when we go through to the Tour de France.
Roger will be very pleased with his boys today. He's a bit of an Anglophile. He's often brought English riders to the team, but now he's seeing his French boys coming through as well. And so let's have a look at the result of the 7th stage and final stage of the Dauphiné Libere. Fofanoff getting the victory there, a rare one indeed, ahead of Jurgen van der Volle of Belgium and Yuri Trofimov, who complete the 3rd place to match his win early in the week. Looking a little bit further down there, Mateo Carrera got back and finished 5th. Sandy Cassar in 7th place. Charlie Regalius a top 10 completed by Lars Bak. And here he comes. He's almost 32 years of age now, Paul, and during the gap in crossing the line, Paul Sherwin's just found out he was a former sprint champion on the track for Kazakhstan.
Yep, that was an awful long time ago, and I think the first time we ever saw him was back in 1998 when he won a stage of the Commonwealth Bank Cycle Classic in Australia.
Yeah, down the eastern seaboard of Australia. He was a young amateur for Kazakhstan there. He rode in the light blue jerseys with the yellow sun on it. But he's got a big win here today, and it's his first for an awful long time, since 2002. And so to the final classification of the 60th Dauphiné Libere, brought to you by Farmers Insurance. Valverde wins ahead of Cadel Evans and Levi Leipheimer. They were the top 3 men of the race. They were always out in front of everybody else here. Cyril Dessel returned to form. He gets home in 6th, top 10 completed by Mateo Carrera. And of some notables for you, Michael Rogers has shown a return to form here with a high finish. He'll make the Tour de France now, I'm sure. Also, George Hincapie had a great ride. Carlos Sastre there, well, still a question mark on his form for the Tour de France, while Craig Lewis, he won't make the Tour this year, but he certainly made an impression. Well, there is Levi Leipheimer called to the podium in 3rd place in the Dauphiné, and it really was a battle all week between 3 riders, and they've commanded the podium. Cadel Evans also coming on board. He might be a little worried about his time trialling prowess just now, Paul. And the winner, Alejandro Valverde, warmly congratulated by the other 2.
Certainly, yeah, I think a very tough call for Levi Leipheimer, Phil, because he had a lot of work to do in the Giro d'Italia, a 3-week bike race, only 1 week before the end of that, before the start of the Dauphiné Libere. So I think his fatigue probably crept into his legs, but he still attacked on a number of occasions.
He did. Alejandro Valverde, well, he's a Spanish winner of this race, the 2nd one in 2 years, and now looks forward to a grand battle in the Tour de France. What a shame, Levi Leipheimer. We can't say the same for him. Well, that's the coverage of the Dauphiné Libere race. Don't go away, because we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joining the action on the 2nd day of the Tour de Suisse. See you in a moment.